how were you able to decide at that point that you were going to do more cakes than the catering
I
itself?
did not decide. It just
It
happened.
just happened.
So, cake was like, okay, quick money. Let's just start to make money. Quick money, because cooking can be very stressful. And before I knew it, cakes just took over. I would do a little bit of catering on the side. There were some people that wanted, oh, there's this chef that has just come back, come and do this. And I would cook and I would deliver. But then the cakes and the desserts just literally took over. In fact, one of the first gigs I did with desserts was Freg's dad. I remember hooked me up with it. And from her job, her friends now started calling me, and I think it's almost 8 years now. And in fact, some of those people are still most of them are like my big aunties now, So yeah, that was like, it literally just happened. I didn't plan for it. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to How They Did It with TriciaBiz. On this show, I take you behind the scenes of successful African entrepreneurs, change makers, and creators, showing you the journeys that led to their success.
Hi, my name is Modupe Immanuel. I'm the CEO of Salt Lagos. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to How They Did It. I am seated with this is the Salt in Salt Lagos. Yeah. We have Mrs. Modupe here. Nice to sit with you finally. We've been trying to, but finally we're here. Good to have you on the show. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So let's get right into it. How did you transition from 2 degrees in law to the kitchen?
How did I transition? Well,
why and how?
Why? Okay.
Yeah.
So after law school, I was practicing law, and then I just realized that most of the time I would sit at my desk and start planning what I'm going to eat for dinner, and just come up with ideas of, okay, this is what I feel like eating. And the only thing when people ask me, what are you passionate about, was always food. That's the only thing I could talk about and I was interested in. And I think this stemmed from when I was much younger. My mom used to be in the kitchen a lot, and we started helping out in the kitchen at a very young age. I remember that, I know people don't believe, but I started pounding yam at the age of 5, because my mom's theory is, if you want to eat pounded yam, you better pound it.
Yeah.
So she would give us a small.
She should be twins with she should be sisters with my mom.
So she gave us a small test. So any of my cousins that came to the house, that's exactly what you're gonna do. So I've always liked the kitchen, and that's just, for me, that was the why. And I was frustrated with law, and I just thought, okay, I watched too much Ali McBeal, and what I was expecting in law was not what
you're getting.
And I know people think because my dad is a lawyer, that's why I decided to study law. But no, I just had this fancy idea in my mind. Anyway, it didn't pan out like that. So I just told my dad one day that, look, or I told my sister that I was actually depressed and I was very suicidal at the point. And, immediately she sent me a message to my mom. My mom starts panicking, and she goes to meet my dad. And, I had, in my head, I'd been planning this imaginary fight with my
dad. Yeah.
I'm not doing this again, be your worst. But that night, the night before I spoke out to my sister, I'd had a dream, and I sort of like got a word in the dream. So I didn't really think much about it. And then my dad calls me. He's like, I don't tell anybody to be depressed. I don't. What do you want to do? I said, my mom just shouted, she wants to cook. That's what she wants to do. I said, okay, I want to go to Le Cordon Bleu. He said, okay, I need you to look for the best school for this thing. I said, it's expensive. He said, it doesn't matter. If I have to sell whatever I need to sell, I will do it. How do you know? You might be one of the most successful people in the family. So I always say that conversation was very surreal, because I never expected it to be that easy. And I always say that God took the battle out of the ram's horn for me, because it just made it so seamless. And it took me like 2 weeks to let it digest and just, that, this really happened. So that was how it started. And my dad paid the fees, which was another testimony on its own. And 1st of January 2013, I remember that was the day I traveled. I said I wanted to go on that day because it was the beginning of a new year. And I just wanted to be the beginning of something new. And I think I resumed school on the 2nd. I went to Paris on the 2nd. School started on the 4th. So yeah, basically that's how I started. That's how I transitioned.
Was there one particular thing that happened and like you had done? It was just a compilation of different things.
I was just not having it. I was not enjoying what I was doing. I knew there was more. And I was just like, and I've always felt like that. I've been very uneasy since uni because I'm like, I feel like there should be more about my life than this. And I thought it was a compilation of things for me. And I think I just hit breaking points. I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Great. So you go to arguably the best school. Lenny, you come back. How did you then kick off?
So I did cuisine and pastry. So I got the grand diploma in the cordon bleu. My real passion was actually cooking, not baking. But I got back and my friend is like, Dupe, you're gonna do some desserts for my wedding, blah blah blah. I was like, Lara, I've only just come back. Literally, like it was like 3 days after I got back or something. She's like, yeah, whatever, you're gonna do it. So I remember doing some macarons, some salted caramel popcorn, and some little bites for her. So that's how I really started. And I remember one of my sister's friends, I think I baked a cake. So the funny thing is, before I went to cordon bleu, I was actually baking cakes. I would just bake like a chocolate cake. I'd come up with an idea and I said, okay, I want to make this cake. And, I would bake it. So I got back and I think one of my sister's friends was like, oh gosh, it's my mom's birthday. Sean, please, can your sister bake a cake for me? And I baked it. And literally that's how it started. And I never did any form of marketing. It was just Instagram, word of mouth. And that's how it really just took off.
That's how it took off. So how were you able to decide at that point that you were going to do more cakes than the catering itself?
I did not decide. It just happened.
It just happened.
So, cake was like, okay, quick money. Let's just start to make money. Quick money. Because cooking can be very stressful. And before I knew it, cakes just took over. I would do a little bit of catering on the side. There were some people that wanted, there's this chef that has just come and do this. And, I would cook and I would deliver. But then the cakes and the desserts just literally took over. In fact, one of the first gigs I did with desserts was Freg's dad. I remember hooked me up with it. And from her job, her friends now started calling me, and this is almost 8 years now. And in fact, some of those people are still most of them are like my big aunties now, So yeah, that was like, it literally just happened. I didn't plan for it. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 9 years now?
It's almost, I started in 2014-ish. Yeah, 14-ish, but 2015 was when it was almost 8 years, I think. 8 years,
8 years, fantastic. So in that 8 years, what would you say are the things that you've done to build brand love? Because whenever I hear Salt Lagos, it's always, man, those guys, they're exclusive, their cakes are this, is that, So what do you think you got right?
What I think I got right? I think for me, my palate is very, I don't know the word to use. I have a very peculiar palate. If I can't eat it, I won't send it out. So for me, I was very, very deliberate about my combinations, about whatever I'm sending out. It just has to be the best quality. If somebody ever comes to me and says, oh, this isn't good enough, it gets to me because I'm like, oh my God, then we've done something wrong. In fact, I will take that as if I failed. And however I need to fix it, as much as possible, I'll try to fix it. So I think it's just the quality of ingredients that we use. I don't compromise on that. I've never compromised on that. And then just making sure that I keep reinventing and learning. Even today, we're testing out, a vanilla recipe, just trying to upgrade and making sure that everything we do is better. So you can't just think, oh, yeah, this is what works and you leave it at that. You have to keep reinvent, especially in the dessert industry or cake industry. If you think that what you learned 10 years ago
We'll still keep you going.
yeah, it's not gonna work. So for me, I think that's really it.
Okay, so presently, how many categories do you have in the business?
And we have three. So we have the desserts, we have the cakes, and we have pastries.
Okay, so which is the highest contributor?
Desserts.
Not the cakes. I would have thought it would be the cakes.
No, so the thing is that you can get like a lot of cake orders, but then the margin is not.
Margin is slim.
Yeah, it's not really that much because the ingredient cost alone is so high that sometimes when we cost cakes or we're doing our costing and they're like, oh, this particular cake is this amount. I'm like, you are a joker. You've missed something. Go and check it again. This calculation is wrong. It's too expensive. They're like, no, that is the cost. So when I look at the ingredient cost, there are some cakes I'll just, if I wanted to do, because for me, I think it's an interesting combination. When I see the price, I'm just like, forget it. Scrap it. We're not going to do this. Too expensive. So that's, just if you have I have grand ideas in my head that I want to do with cakes, but I'm just like, no, let's just put it aside. But if I feel like, okay, this particular thing is going to sell, no matter what the cost is, then I'll leave it. Yeah.
So how have you come up with the different types of cakes that you bake? Because will you say you have a signature?
Oh, our signature is the salted caramel cookie monster, and I even remember how that started. It was one of my clients. She said her children didn't like fruits in their cake.
Okay.
So she wanted me to do something different. So I just sat down. In culinary school, we had learned how to make salted caramel, and I was like, why don't we try adding this salted caramel as a filling to the cake? And she's like, oh my God, it was so nice. They all loved it. And literally that's how we started. So if you hear salt, you're like, yeah, somebody, oh, is that your salted caramel cookie monster? That is our most popular cake. And I think after that, it's the best of both worlds, which is the vanilla and chocolate with salted caramel.
Okay, so how does the name salt come about? Is it from the Bible or the salt in the food?
No. So funny, I remember I was sitting in my apartment in Paris and I just finished school and I'm like, God, what next? I need direction. I need to know what to do. And I had been writing all sorts of names. I remember I wrote Pastry by Chef Dupes because some of my friends called me Dupes. And the name Salt just dropped. And I'm just like, huh?
Salt?
And it was like salt.
Not sugar.
Exactly. So God now led me to the particular scripture, Matthew 5:13. And I put that on my box because everybody asks, why salt? So I put it there so that the answer is why. And I remember the next day I went to church and the pastor was actually preaching about marriage. And then all of a sudden just randomly just says, you are the salt of the earth. And then goes back to what he was saying. And I remember sitting in front and I was laughing. I'm sure they were like, what's wrong with this girl? For me, that was the confirmation right there that I needed. And so that's how the name came about. You are the salt of the earth. Because the funny thing is, in cake, you actually have to add salt. So in most of the things that we bake, there has to be salt because salt just balances everything. So even with the salted caramel itself is sweet. It's pure sugar that you're dealing with. And then the salt just tones it down and brings that balance. So that's why it's funny that the name is salt and not sugar.
Yeah.
And I'm more of a savory tooth than a sweet tooth. I don't really like sweet things.
Okay, so you decided you'd add Lagos because we are going to be based out of Lagos.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a catchy name.
Yeah.
Salt Lagos. Okay. So how do you cope with the weekly or if not monthly hike in prices of raw materials and just running a business in Nigeria in 2023?
So what we do is we make allowance when I'm doing my menus. I make allowance for the increase in price. So I give you an example. Just in 1 month, sugar went from 35 or about 32,000 to 38,000 to the last time somebody told me she was buying at 42 because there's scarcity of sugar. And the
Wow.
same thing, you know, your flour, today they'll tell you flour is one amount, next minute.
The-
Or butter. Butter is the king of hiking price. So you're buying butter maybe at 90, next minute they're like, oh, sorry, it's 120,000 per carton. So we try as much as
Wow.
possible to make allowance. Some people say it's not just butter and sugar. Why is the cake so expensive? If you want cheap cake, it's very easy. I can get topper. Topper is in those ones in the buckets. I can make it, and you know, well, I've never used it before, to be fair, so I don't know. I'm just saying, but and some things that people even call butter, because you have margarine that looks like butter, but it's not butter. So you're not getting the same texture. So we just try as much as possible to make allowance, because you can't keep telling your customer today, oh, price has gone up, then tomorrow it just keeps going up. They will think that we're lying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So making allowance so that your price is stable to a larger extent.
This is me interrupting your watch time to tell you to like this video, share it, and also subscribe to my channel. You're still watching How They Did It with TriciaBiz.
How do you manage getting staff? Because many business owners complain about no good staff. In fact, now they say there's no staff at all. They just even collect the bad ones.
And it's not a lie, but to be fair, and to be very honest, I've been blessed with good people. I've had people who have been with me 7 years,
Okay.
4, 5 years, and I learned something from my dad. You have to understand people. Some people are not patient enough with staff, so they just keep recycling. But if you understand somebody, and you're patient enough, then you know this person's strengths and weaknesses. So that's how I know how to manage people. They frustrate my life. Sometimes I just want to, you know, enjoy them. But you just have to understand people and you have to manage them. If not, you're going to keep recycling. You're going to keep changing and changing. So the devil that you know is better than the one that you don't know. That's how I look at things. So I think I've been blessed. And, you know, some people come, they go. But God is gracious enough to send, you know, new people.
What do you think you do to keep people that long? Because the churn rate is high, especially in an industry like yours.
What do? I think I am just a bit. I always say this thing that you have to show grace to people if you want to receive grace, because you're going to mess up one day. So if I mess up, I want people to be kind to me. So as much as possible, I show grace. If you mess up, I'll call you. I can shout and whatever. But, you know, and a lot of times I try to understand what the person is probably going through. And then, okay, why are you acting like this? But if your case is peculiar, most times I don't even sack people. I just pray them out. And you just come yourself and say you're leaving. And then that's what happens. So, but I try to show enough grace to people.
Okay. So if we just stay on the people for another minute, how do you manage thefts? How are you able to ensure that, you know, the materials bought is only used for items and all of that?
That's a difficult one. I've had a few situations. There are some people that I've let go of because of that, but there are some that I also didn't let go of. But I made it clear that I knew that you were doing this. And I just I weighed the whole situation. And it's one of those things where, again, I spoke to my dad. My dad is just like, well, you know. But again, it's not a thing where you're condoning stealing. I don't. But as I said, some people I let go of, some I didn't. To ensure that all the materials, we keep record of, you know, whatever we're buying, inventory. And we have an inventory. But the thing is that unless I'm a witch, there's no way I can. Absolutely. Because we're talking about things like flour. I'm not going to start measuring how many cups of flour. We're talking about eggs. Somebody can just pick an egg or salt or something, you know. You can't really, even though we have cameras everywhere, you can't still, you know, monitor it like
To
intricately.
manage.
It's almost impossible, and I would just lose my mind. So I choose my peace of mind. As long as whatever is being taken is not, it's not like that
Little
sort of thing that
margin.
will kill me.
Mm.
Then, you know, yeah, that's my health and my sanity over any other thing.
Right. Have you been able to attract clients in the upper echelon? So many business owners will say one of the challenges they have is actually, finding the high and mighty and getting them to be their clients, but you have them in the tons. So how were you able to attract them and retain them?
Without sounding like cliche,
Mm-hmm.
again, it's just grace. I think it's just God's grace, and that is the absolute truth. Second thing is, I think because of the quality, again, quality of ingredients
Okay.
that we use, um, and whatever products we're bringing out, we're not. If your quality, the quality of your products you're using is bad, it's going to tell in the taste.
Mm.
But if you're using the best of qualities, I mean, most of the things that we use, we have to import. We use the best cocoa powder, we use the best chocolates, we use the best form of butter. So it's almost like the same standard if I was in Paris and I was baking, or I'm in London, it's the exact same thing that I will be using. So I'm not trying to cut cost. I don't like, oh, maybe this baking powder is cheaper. Maybe this one I want to use is 10,000, but then there's one that is 500. I'm not going to use it because it's not going to give me what I want. So I think that if the quality of what you're using is good and your product speaks for itself, then I don't think it's really that hard. Well, sorry, let me not say so. Again, I said it's grace of God. So, yeah, let me just say grace of God, and the product speaks for itself.
Okay, do you think your network also had something to play?
So I'm an introvert.
Okay.
I'm an introvert. There's some people. I have a particular client. I've known her for almost 8 years. I think the first time I saw, no, not the first time. I saw her a few years ago when I went to her house. But I saw her last year, and she was buying something. I was at the place, and then someone just said, "Oh, do you know who this is?" She was telling the lady, "Do you know who this is?" She said, "This is Salt." She's like, "You are kidding. You are joking. Dupe, so this is you?" And I was just like, "Who am I talking to?" She's like, "Who did you send cake to last week? That you just said, oh, I remembered your auntie and I said I should send you something." And I couldn't believe it. And we were hugging each other and all of that. But some people have not, like, I've spoken to them, I've never seen them in my entire life. So I don't know that if it's my network. I think that if somebody has had something from Salt and they like it, they probably tell their friend, and the friend comes, and then they order. There's some events that we do that I do not even know the person, but the person's like, I must be Salt. There are people I meet and like, oh my God, I've been your customer for many years, and I'm just like, okay, thank you, but I don't really know the person. So I think that I don't really think it's my network per se.
Okay.
Because
You
yeah.
don't.
I mean, there's some people that, even some of my dad's friends that I don't know, just to show you that I don't think it's my network. Maybe somebody brought it for them, and then they come and tell my dad, "Oh, you are Salt's daddy. I didn't know that your daughter was Salt Lagos." And I'm like, "Who is the person? I don't know the person." You say, "But you should know." I don't know.
I don't know. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
So I all through I've heard you keep making reference to word of mouth marketing. So somebody told somebody and somebody told somebody. But beyond word of mouth marketing, is there any marketing idea or campaign strategy that you think has really helped the business?
Instagram, when Instagram was still Instagram.
Shade.
Not this new Instagram that's trying to be like TikTok. No. So Instagram helped. And then recently we also started doing like newsletters. And I find that the newsletter, maybe you've forgotten that you want to order a cake. They just get the newsletter. In fact, I still saw an email from somebody, and it was in the newsletter of, was it Easter or maybe Workers' Day or something, Workers' Day newsletter, and the person just responded to that newsletter and said they wanted to order something. So those are the two things that I've never really done any
Ads
market.
or anything.
No, maybe it's just, again, as I just said, this new Instagram, you have to do ads. So maybe that's it.
So it's more of quality and the fact that people like the taste and the look and they just keep coming back. That's interesting. Okay, so are there like peak seasons in your industry? I know yes, like the celebrations and whatnot. So how do you prepare for the rush that comes with the peak seasons?
Again, it's planning. I mean, even now when we're in May, I've already told them I want to start planning for Christmas because I don't want to be. Because I think you have to order before December so that we have enough time. It's really preparing. I give an example. Last year, Val's Day was, I think, one of the worst times ever, and I'm traumatized from it.
Well,
traumatized. We had, on the 14th, I think we had about 275 orders. And it's one of those situations where we're like, okay, when we get to a certain number, stop. But then you have people, but please now, but please now, but please now. Okay, please now, please now, please now. We got to 275, no problem. Oh yeah. Traffic. Traffic was a huge nightmare. People that ordered for the 13th, that they'll say, okay, don't worry, we'll pick up on the 13th. But in their minds, they know they're not going to pick up on that 13th. So we'll call them, they will not answer. So we now had to keep cakes in the fridge. And then the cakes that we needed to actually do on the 14th, we couldn't do because there was no space to put it in. So even though we prepared, it's almost like you can never be prepared enough. But this year, I said, I'm not going to do that. I gave myself a certain number, and when I got to that number, I stopped. If you beg me, I can't do it. Why? I don't want that trauma. But for Christmas, so for me, for most cake people or flower people, Valentine's Day is the worst. We dread it because everybody wants the cake in the morning, on the same day. How? It's always very difficult. But Christmas is also a busy period, and I prefer Christmas because we can spread it.
You can spread it through the holiday.
Through the week, we can spread it, So pick up on the 23rd, pick up on the 22nd. In fact, we start our pickups from the 18th for Christmas. So we plan ourselves very well for Christmas. Easter is not as busy, but it's also a busy time, and then the big Salah is also a busy time. And then December you also have, it's almost like the peak wedding season because everybody's getting married, especially the 17th. Usually that weekend of 15th to the 18th is the busiest day of the year because you can have like 5 events on the same day. So yeah, you just have to be prepared and set a target. I want to do this amount of cakes, and I know that I can fulfill those orders.
Okay, so I can call you an outlier. Can I? Because you've decided to create what works for your business, despite what exists in your industry. Yeah. So one is you decided, we're not going to deliver after some certain areas because I want the integrity of the cake to be the same when it gets there. Whereas most other people will be like, the more the cakes, the merrier. And then you decided, I'm not going to take your order on WhatsApp. You all go to websites. So how have you been confident enough to say, I know this is what exists. I know they will, maybe scream, drag my leg, whatever, but I want to stick to what we can handle and the integrity of the brand. How did you get to that place?
Experience. So, for instance, you spoke about deliveries. We used to deliver to Aja. We deliver to Lagos Business School. If you want our yaya, we deliver there. But then we now started getting situations where, by the time you get the cake, or the cake has collapsed, or something happened. and the customer is upset. And then they're shouting, I've ruined their birthday, I've ruined this. And then I'm traumatized, and I take it out on everybody. So I was like, okay, this place is far. There's traffic, so we're not going to do that. And people have to also understand the drivers that we use are not our drivers. They're just outsourced drivers. But then some of them doesn't pay them to go all the way and then be stuck in traffic to make how much?
3K.
3K, 4K. They're not interested in that. So in that situation, we just decided that okay, we're going to deliver to certain area. We used to deliver to VGC before I think they now moved around about or something. So you have to go and turn to get to VGC now. The drivers will tell us point blank, "I'm not going." Why? Because the traffic is so much for them and it's not going to pay them. Because if they went to Lekki 1 now, they can do the round of Lekki 1 like 3 or 4 times and they'll be okay. Again, there was an example of, this Lagos-Ibadan expressway traffic. Just 2 weeks ago, the driver left at 9 a.m. He was going to Magodo. At 2 a.m. at 2 p.m. he was at Akpere.
Oh wow.
So for him, what is the point? At that point, he said, okay, and then in fact, then I got home and my husband calls me and said, my friend just called and said, you just delivered the cake. I was too confused. I said, I'm sorry, at 9 p.m., the driver was stuck in traffic and couldn't get to the location. So when you have these situations, it only makes sense that, you know what, this is not working right now. So if it's not working, let's take it off. We're not a logistics company. We don't have our personal drivers. So we have to also work with the drivers and see what works for them. WhatsApp, initially I was one of those people that said I wasn't going to use WhatsApp. I'd always started with emails and phone calls and text messages. Because I knew that WhatsApp is instant messaging. Everybody wants you to respond immediately. And when I started, I was the one baking, answering calls. It's not possible for me to pick calls and be responding to messages at the same time. It was hard. So I said, okay, let's do emails at least. And before, I didn't put that we'll respond within 24 hours. If you don't respond on time, somebody will get upset. So I said, okay, automated message, we respond within 24 hours. No problem. Text messaging. I remember there was a time people would text and the text messages wouldn't come in. Nigerian network. Phone calls. One woman came in, I can never ever forget. I've been calling you guys, you did not pick up your call incoming. It's a lie, you deleted the number. She called us in front of us, she was calling. Do you know the call incoming? She was calling the number that she called. So I'm so happy she did that because she now saw that really it wasn't our fault. So I was like, what is a good avenue for people to be able to respond quickly? I mean, there was a situation where one woman sent me WhatsApp messages. She wanted me to do a particular color. I kid you not, she sent me almost 100 pictures of the particular color she wanted and the style. I was like, oh my God. So, and this was on my personal number. I said, okay, no problem. When COVID now hits, I said to one of my staff was like, Ma, let's just do WhatsApp. It's better. It's this, is that. I said, okay, you want to do WhatsApp? No problem. Then we did WhatsApp and we showed us Pepe. It was a nightmare. Not because we don't want to answer on WhatsApp, but we had 3 or 4 people responding to WhatsApp. 3 people. I was using WhatsApp on the phone, using WhatsApp on the laptop, right? And I think it was 3 people that could use it. It was still not enough. So we were getting messages, and then when somebody sends a message, let's say at 1 o'clock, and we haven't responded because we're trying to respond from the bottom, they now send another message. It now goes to the top. It was just a night. It was a mess. So at the end of I think it was 2021 or so, I just said, you know what, that's WhatsApp number, delete it. We're not having it because it wasn't working. It was actually causing more problems than something that was good. So it didn't work for us as a business. But people think that maybe I'm being, they're just arrogant, they're proud. No, it's not because we're rigid. The amount of money we spend on the website was a lot. And even on a monthly basis, we still have to pay for the maintenance of the website to make sure that, okay, everything, apart from maintenance, we pay for Shopify. And Shopify's fees are not chicken change. It's expensive. So we put it so that in 5
In
minutes,
dollars. In
dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you put in all of these things there so that you don't have to talk to somebody. You don't run the risk of saying, oh, this person was rude to me. Just to cut out all this, situation of this
Just
person
go on
was
the
rude.
website and order.
And people will just think,
And-
oh, the customer service was rude, so Dupe is rude. But I'm not rude. It's just that, again, customer service, it's not almost our culture in Nigeria. I've had very traumatic experiences with customer service, So, but again, we just have to keep trying, we keep striving. Okay, we keep striving to do better. Sometimes when somebody says this is what this person did, and I'm just like, are you actually kidding? How do you talk to a customer like that? But you keep training, you keep doing, but again,
is what we find.
this is what's exactly.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're wrapping up. What advice do you have for a newbie who's coming into the culinary space, or just starting any business at all?
I think I would say that be passionate about whatever it is you want to do. I'm very, I won't say I'm religious, but I am spiritual enough to say that you have to put God first and just be aligned with God, because that is literally my own story. And be very, very diligent. Pay attention to detail. Be diligent at what you do. Even the Bible says that, see a man that is diligent in his work and he will stand before kings. So if you are diligent in what you're doing, and don't look for shortcuts. Know your target market. I always use Cakes and Cream as an example. I love their business model because they have a particular niche that they focused on, and I don't know how many branches that they have. In fact, my brother-in-law sometimes prefers Cakes and Cream's cake to my cake. He says he just likes their cake. He loves it. And so just know what your target market is, know what your niche is. Again, be very, very diligent and just continue to pray, because you can put in all this hard work
And it still doesn't
and
work
it still
out.
doesn't work out. And again, don't be afraid to fail. Failure is just it's an episode, or it's just one thing. It doesn't mean you are a failure. There's some things we've done that didn't work out. It didn't work out. Or if a customer is upset, before I'll beat myself up about it, I'm like, oh my God, I messed up. No, it was just one particular situation. So before, if something didn't work out or a customer is upset, I will beat myself up and then ignore the, let's say, 50 people that have said, oh my God, I love what you did. And then focus on the negative, one negative thing. So what happens to the positives that you've gotten? So and just give yourself a break and give yourself a pat on the back when you've done good, because you've put in the work and you've earned it. So and that's okay to celebrate yourself. I'm talking to myself because I don't know how to do that.
Fantastic. So I have one trick question for you. How many cakes have you ever? What's the highest number of cakes you remember that you've made in one day?
That Valentine's of last year, 275.
275
I
cakes.
remember.
That's a lot of cakes.
That's a lot of cakes.
Yeah.
That was a lot. Very lot.
How many days did you take orders for Valentine?
3 days.
3 days.
We did 12, 13, 14.
Okay.
Yeah, so 14 was the one
That was the highest.
Yeah. Never again.
Never again. And it's a wrap. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you
I'll see you in
very
the
much.
next episode. Till then, peace out.